Hello, I'm Nancy Roth, and thank you for joining us for today's virtual Shōshinge Service for Sunday, October 25th, 2020, for the Buddhist Church of San Francisco. I'm honored and humbled to be part of our Shin community, especially at this disturbing time, a time that reflects impermanence indeed across our nation and around the world. Today's service will feature the Sutra chanting of the Shōshinge, followed by a Dharma talk by Reverend Henry Adams of the San Mateo Buddhist Temple, a Gatha titled How Sweetly the Lotus Grows, a message from the BCSF Jr. YBA, and closing remarks by Taiyo Scanlan Kimura. But first, let us begin with a group reading. Please join me in reciting the three treasures. Hard is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Awakened One. Now we hear it. If we do not realize the truth in this life, when will it be realized? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we absorb ourselves in the living source of understanding and compassion, and awaken to the boundless Pure Land here and now. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we be submerged in the depths of the teachings and reality as it is, and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we live in harmony with all beings in the great assembly as disciples of Buddha, and be freed from all barriers, becoming units of true accord in the life of harmony, in a spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through myriad ages of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to see it, listen to it, accept and receive it. May we completely realize the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Boots, Namo Amida Boots, Namo Amida Boots. Thank you.
간쇼 신교지지 진이난 난치신한 무가시 인도사이 텐시롱예 지가 지치기시고소 겐다이 쇼고세쇼이 묘녀라이 홍세오기 샤카뇨라이 요가센 이실호묘 난텐지 유주다이 지시떠세 신노사이 하우무켄 센세츠다이 조무조호 쇼간기지 쇼암라 겐지난교로그로그 신교이교시도라 옥근엔니다 부스혼간 지넨 소크지 뉴이리스저 유인어조쇼녀라이고 오다이 그제고 행진보사츠소런셋 기묘무게 공요라이 에슈타라 켄신지스 고센모조달세간 고이환단 리기에고 이동금저쇼이신 기뉴크도다이 호카이 디츠량뉴다이 에실슈 호크시랭게조세카이 소크쇼신요호쇼진 유본너린 겐진즈 뉴쇼지원지오게 헌시건단려텐시 요고란 쇼호사츠라이 산서르시 주저교 먼저 생겨 기라그호 겐지보사츠런 측에 오도인가 겐세간 오겐네고이타리 쇼조시린 유이징징 와크센본부신지보 쇼지쇼지석은혜한 이심으로 공여도 쇼으실적할게 도샤크케 쇼동난쇼 유이묘조도 같으며 만센지리엔본슈 엔만토그고 간센쇼 산부산신계온원 소마스호메스도리린 이쇼소악지
Gatha 지혜 놓고 우며 차라리 낫지
의리하여 노소서는 겉하고 도구 거룩해 가무라는 모노만나시 진지승려니 기요세요 나무아미단드 나무아미단드 나무
Namam Davits, 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 Namam Davits. I invite you to join me in Gassho. Issai zenmaku bonbu nin, monshin nyorai guzegan, butsugon kodai shogesha, zenni myofun darike. All foolish beings, whether good or evil, when they hear and entrust to Amida's universal vow, are praised by the Buddha as people of vast and excellent understanding. Such a person is called the pure white lotus. Namam Davits, Namam Davits, Namam Davits, Namam Davits, Namam Davits, Namam Davits. Hello, everyone. Thank you again for this opportunity to join you for your Shōshinge service. I think this Shōshinge service is a wonderful tradition of the Buddhist Church of San Francisco, the Shōshinge being the most significant of our daily liturgies in that it encompasses all of the essence of the Pure Land teaching. Each verse of the Shōshinge is truly profound and rich in meaning for those of us who live and endeavor to live deeply in the Nembutsu. Today I wanted to focus on this verse of the Shōshinge as we're entering into this season of autumn and this season of transformations. The leaves are starting to turn a little bit on the trees. The temperature is changing a little bit here in the Bay Area. Of course, we're anticipating perhaps some major changes in our political system in the through the election that's coming up in just a few weeks, a couple weeks from now, actually. And so I want to talk today about transformation and how we are changed and transformed by the Buddha Dharma, how the Buddha's teachings really bring about a profound transformation in our life in ways that perhaps we're not even aware of ourselves. And so to talk about this, I want to share with you a story, one of the most profound and meaningful stories from the Buddhist tradition about a transformation and one whose life is changed. This is a story from the life of Shakyamuni Buddha, from a time when the Buddha was traveling from place to place, as he often did, visiting, sharing the Dharma, receiving alms, moving on to the next village. And as he was traveling through a certain part of North India where he was living, he was going from one village to next, and he'd ask for instructions, and he was given specific guidance. Now, as you're traveling, you will come to a great forest. Don't go into the forest. Go around the forest. Do not go into the forest. There's a very dangerous man in that forest. His name is Angulimala. Now, the word Angulimala, mala is one of these. It's a string of beads, or like a necklace. But a mala would be a string of beads. And Anguli means finger, and so Angulimala was said to wear a string of fingers, kind of a necklace of fingers around his neck. And it was said that he was a vicious, brutal bandit, and he would murder travelers who were traveling through the forest, and then he would take their possessions, but he would also take a finger from their body, and he would add that to his necklace. And his goal was to have a necklace with 1,000 fingers, it said, and that he had this long necklace that had 999 fingers, and he was waiting for his next victim. But of course, people had been warned about how dangerous this forest was, and so visitors to the forest were becoming more and more rare. And so Angulimala was there in the forest waiting for a visitor one day when Shakyamuni Buddha, not heeding the advice of those as he traveled closer and closer to the forest, was saying, no, don't go in there, go that way, go around. And he would just continue on his usual way of walking, steady, slowly, mindfully, but purposefully, traveling great distances over the course of a day, just carrying on at a steady and even pace. And he carried that pace right into this forest where Angulimala was living and waiting. And Angulimala saw him coming. He's like, oh, goody, right? Now is my time. I can finally reach my goal of getting 1,000 fingers. Look at him. He's walking so slowly. Surely he'll be easy to catch. And so Angulimala is hiding in the bushes. He's waiting. And as the Buddha walks through this forest, he sees him and he tries to sneak up behind him. He waits for the Buddha to move along the path, and then he starts to chase after him on the path. And it's interesting because as he runs faster, the Buddha seems to be getting further away. And the faster he runs, the further the Buddha gets from him. And he's running as fast as he can, but yet he finds that the Buddha is walking at that same slow and steady pace. And so Angulimala shouts out to the Buddha. Finally, he says, "Stop!" And the Buddha turns and he says, "No, you stop." Angulimala's taken aback. He says, "What do you mean I stop?" He says, "I'm the one who is standing here shouting at you. You're the one who keeps moving." The Buddha says, "But I have stopped. I have stopped. Angulimala, you must stop." And as he's saying this, the Buddha is continuing on. Angulimala says, "How can you say that? I've stopped running. You keep walking." The Buddha says, "I have stopped harming others. I've stopped causing trouble, difficulty, and pain for others, but you live completely unrestrained, only pursuing your own desires. So Angulimala, you stop. And Angulimala, when he hears this, he thinks, this is the first time that someone has spoken to me. It's a fellow human being, someone who has reached out to me to share this message of wisdom. And so in that moment, Angulimala casts aside his sword, casts aside all of his weapons, and he asks the Buddha, will you take me as your student? May I join you and travel with you and learn from your wisdom? And so the Buddha, in that moment, in that forest where so many had lost their lives, he welcomes Angulimala into the Sangha. He welcomes him and says, yes, I welcome you, for I see that you've had a change of heart in this moment and that you are ready to seek this path, to follow the path to wisdom and compassion, to live guided by this eightfold path of right living. And so Angulimala becomes disciple of the Buddha, and he travels with the Buddha and he goes on his alms rounds, but people recognize him and they see him. And when he goes into these villages, sometimes people will see him and they're like, that's Angulimala. He killed my relatives. And so they'll throw rocks at him, they'll hit him with sticks, they'll beat him up, and he would go back to the Buddha and he would be all bruised up and beaten. And the Buddha would say, this is your karma. This is the result of your actions. The way you've lived has brought about these results. Had you not encountered the Dharma, entered the Sangha, the results surely would have been much worse. Were you not wearing the robes of a monk, think of how differently you might have been treated. Right? And so in this way, the Buddha sees Angulimala as having been transformed. And Angulimala receives a kind of new life. And he becomes kind and compassionate toward others. One day he's traveling village to village, and he sees a woman who's having terrible pain. She's having what's called breech birth. Her baby is not coming out the way that it should be. Normally babies come out head first. This one's coming out feet first. Very painful for the mother, very dangerous for the baby. And so Angulimala returns to the Buddha and asks him, is there something that can be done for this woman? There's something I can do. I feel deep concern for her. And so the Buddha tells him, he guides him wisely. He says, sure, there's something you can do. Go to her and say, in my entire life, since being born, I've never harmed another living thing. By the power of this truth, may there be peace and safety for you, peace and safety for your child. And so Angulimala hears this and he's thinking, but it's not true. I've harmed so many people. When I was living in the forest, I harmed so many animals, so many people. I've harmed so many. I've taken so many lives. He asks the Buddha, how can this be true? The Buddha says, then say that since I was born into the noble life, since I was reborn as a disciple of the Buddha, I have not harmed a living thing. And by the power of this truth, may there be peace for you and peace for your child. In that moment, Angulimala receives this teaching, and he carries it with him to this village, and he shares this teaching of the transformation, his own life, how he was so wicked and harmful, and yet through hearing the Dharma, his life is transformed, and he becomes one with deep concern and care for others, one with boundless, tremendous patience, taught by the Buddha. And so, for us, living in this world, we don't have the opportunity to meet Shakyamuni Buddha in person. We do have the opportunity to hear his teachings. And there's one particular teaching that has this same power to transform our minds. That's the teaching of the Nembutsu, this teaching that Shinran Shonin praises here in the Shōshinge, when he says, all foolish beings, whether good or evil, when they hear and entrust to Amida's universal vow, the Buddha's vow to carry all of us from a life of suffering and harm to a life of wisdom and compassion through realizing birth in this Pure Land, this world of enlightenment. That all beings, whether good or evil, when they hear and entrust to Amida's universal vow, this promise to transform our lives, that these beings, when we entrust in it, Shinran says they're praised by the Buddha as people of vast and excellent understanding. Such a person is called a pure white lotus. Think about the lotus that begins in the muck, in the mud, this dirty, mucky pond. And as it grows and it fully becomes its true self, it rises from this muck and blossoms, pure, white, and pristine, still grounded in the muck of this daily life. And indeed, lotuses can't blossom in clear, pure water. They rise up in that muck. And so the Buddha Dharma is like this. It blossoms in our lives when we live with wisdom and compassion, when we live with kindness for others. And so this is my reflection, my appreciation of this teaching. I thank you again for joining us for this Shōshinge service, and I hope that these teachings in this time of transformation in our lives will guide you to realize your own potential for kindness and understanding, that you too may blossom as a pure white lotus in the Nembutsu. In conclusion, I invite you to join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namman Dabutsu, Namman Dabutsu, Namman Dabutsu, Namman Dabutsu, Namman Dabutsu.
How sweetly the lotus grows in the litter of the wayside. How sweetly the lotus grows in the litter of the wayside. Its pure fragrance delights the heart. How sweetly the lotus grows in the litter of the wayside. Follow, follow the awakened, and from among the blind, the light of your wisdom will shine out purely. How sweetly the lotus grows in the litter of the wayside. How sweetly the lotus grows in the litter of the wayside. Its pure fragrance delights the heart. How sweetly the lotus grows in the litter of the wayside.
Hi everyone, I'm Taiyo Scanlon Kimura. For today's meditative reading, I would like to share an excerpt from Swimming in the American, the memoir of our dear friend, the late Hiroshi Kashiwagi. It seemed like a brand new day in Sacramento when we got off the train. As we walked the once familiar streets, the air was so clear and pure that I wanted to drink it. The pristine clarity of everything in the sunlight, the trees, the flowers, the lawns, the houses, the cars moving in traffic, the people going about their lives, was like seeing the world for the first time. Voraciously, I tried to take it all in through the pores of my skin, deep inside, for replenishment, for nourishment, for renewal. So this was the outside world that we had longed for. Hiroshi's memory of rejoining the outside world after camp speaks to me at our current moment of isolation and reminds me that the world that connects us all is always present, waiting to embrace us once more. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. We will now have a message from our BCSF Jr. YBA.
In this video, the Junior YBA will be talking about the 5 W's and how parts of voting. Although we can't vote yet, your vote will impact our future.
Now, why should you vote? Well, the United States is a democracy, which relies on people to vote for their leader. By voting, you have a say on who should be the leader of one of the largest current global superpowers. If you don't vote, you're forfeiting your say on who should lead and make decisions for you and your country. Being able to vote is a privilege, so make sure you exercise your right to vote for who you want to lead the country for the next 4 years.
For this election, the voters will determine who takes power. On the federal level, we are voting for the president and representatives in Congress. California will also decide on state propositions, state senators, and state assembly members. San Francisco residents will vote on the Board of Education, Community College Board, and city and county propositions. You will also vote on your district supervisor. Your vote will also influence several issues such as business and property taxes, infrastructure, and public education. You can find more information on the candidates and propositions online, but make sure to check your sources.
You can vote in U.S. elections if you are a U.S. citizen, are above or turn the age of 18 on voting day, meet your state's residency requirements, you can be homeless and still meet these requirements, and are registered to vote by the state's voter registration deadline. You cannot vote in U.S. elections if you are not a U.S. citizen, and that includes permanent legal residents, have felony convictions, the rules vary depending on the state you live in, are below the age of 18 on voting day, are mentally incapacitated. Rules also vary depending on the state you live in and is a very limited circumstance. Don't meet your state's residency requirements and are not registered to vote by the state's voters registration deadline.
There are 3 ways you can vote: by mail-in, drop-off, or in person. If you're planning on voting by mail, you don't have to do anything extra. The SF Department of Elections mailed ballots to all registered voters in October. Please make sure to keep your address up to date so you receive your ballot at the right place. When filling out your ballot, please make sure to follow the instructions carefully. Also, it is crucial that you sign the envelope, otherwise your vote will not be counted. Return your ballot by mail as early as possible. Make sure it is postmarked on or before November 3rd. If you're planning to drop off your ballot, it's the same process as the mail-in ballot, except instead of mailing, you drop it off at a polling site. Find an SF drop-off station, local polling station, and waiting times at sfelections.org or call 415-554-4375.
If you plan to return your ballot on Election Day, November 3rd, bring it to any ballot drop-off station or any one of the city's polling places between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. There is a sample ballot in your voter information pamphlet that you can use to make voting in person quicker and easier. You can also find a sample ballot on the SF Elections website. If you need a bilingual ballot, check to make sure your polling site has the language that you need. Also, make sure to wear a face mask when at an in-person polling site. You can track your ballot and receive automatic notifications on your ballot status via email, text, or call by going to the website on the screen. For San Francisco residents, this link, or call this number. For all California residents, this link.
Hopefully, you've learned something new out of this. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for that important announcement, Junior YBA. For our other announcements, the BCSF Book Club meets every week via Zoom. The next book will be The Awareness of Self by Gyodo Haguri. Current days and times are yet to be determined. Mindful meditation with Leo Joslin is on Wednesday evenings at 6:30 p.m., also via Zoom. The BCSF General Membership Meeting will be on Sunday, November 8th at 11:30 a.m., also via Zoom. The BCSF Board of Directors election is coming up. Interested candidates are asked to submit a candidate statement by Sunday, November 15th. And lastly, if you placed an order for this month's bento fundraiser, please remember to pick up your order on Thursday, October 29th from 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. at the BCSF Garage on Austin Alley. If you have any questions about these announcements, please feel free to call or email the BCSF office for more information. For today's appreciations, thank you to Nancy Roth for her opening remarks. Thank you to Reverend Henry Adams of the San Mateo Buddhist Temple for his Dharma talk. Thank you to the BCSF Jr YBA for their Get Out the Vote public service announcement. Thank you to Kevin Yoza for helping to produce these online services. And lastly, thank you, our Sangha, for taking care of one another and for staying connected and engaged during this time when we are all apart. We miss you and hope you are doing well. These days, I am in the Chicago area and look forward to eventually attending a service at the Midwest Buddhist Temple. In the meantime, I am extremely grateful for these BCSF online services. Thank you for joining us for today's virtual Shōshinge service. Please take care, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu.